1. The quiet life, soft wind through trees at the opening. Clara Benton woke before dawn, the hush of the suburban streets muffled by the early light. The kitchen was her sanctuary, a stack of novels, a steaming mug, the steady rhythm of a housewife's routine. Outside, the mail slot clicked, a small, ordinary sound that punctuated the day's first moment. She slid a letter into her purse, her fingers brushing the embossed seal of the local grocery store. An ordinary morning in a 1950s-style house on Willow Lane. Mark Benton, her husband of 15 years, moved in with the same unhurried ease. He spent his mornings in the garage, turning the old lawn mower into a work of art, while Clara tended to the garden and the endless list of household chores. The family's world was a quiet bubble, a place where secrets were a foreign concept. At the park a few blocks away, a group of children laughed under the shade of oak trees. Crickets chirped as the sun climbed, a simple soundtrack to a life that felt unblemished. 2. The first hint, the click of the mail slot when evidence arrives. Later that afternoon, as Clara fetched a package from the front porch, she paused to notice Mark walking toward the neighbor's house, a soft, almost imperceptible sigh trailing behind him. The neighbor, Danny Collins, stood at his threshold, a book in one hand, a warm smile on his face. For a fleeting moment, Clara's breath caught. She had always seen Danny as a charismatic, carefree soul, a stark contrast to Mark's practical nature. The image of the two men, one stoic, the other breezy, together in that fleeting moment made her pulse quicken. She felt the weight of that glance like a stone. When she returned home, she tucked the memory into the back of her mind, unsure whether she'd imagined it or seen it. The subtlety of the moment, like a quiet ripple, couldn't help but stir something inside her. 3. Gathering evidence, low rumble during emotional confessions. Over the next days, Clara's curiosity grew into obsession. She began to pay attention to Mark's behavior. The way he lingered a moment longer at Danny's door, the sudden change in his eyes when he talked to the neighbor. She'd find herself standing by the mailbox, the click of the slot as she sent anonymous letters to a local journalist who covered community gossip. Her search led her to the back of Danny's garage, where a hidden drawer revealed a stack of photos, both him and Mark together, laughing at a family picnic, a wedding, and a mysterious dinner. Each picture was a thread pulling her deeper into a web of deception. She whispered to herself, "What if I am wrong? What if it's just a coincidence?" Yet the evidence seemed too damning, each image a confession that slid under the surface of their suburban perfection. 4. Confrontation, soft wind through trees at the opening, crescendo of drums in the climax. Clara decided to confront Mark. That night, with the house quiet save for the occasional owl, she invited him into the living room. The air hung heavy. "Mark," she began, her voice steadier than she felt, "I found something in Danny's garage." Mark's face paled. "Clara, I don't understand. Who is this Danny? What's going on?" She took a breath, the weight of the decision pressing on her. "Danny Collins. He's the neighbor, the one you've been talking to." Mark laughed nervously, a sound that trembled. "I don't have time for this. We're fine. We're just talking." Clara looked at him, the image of the man she'd married. "Mark, I found photos. Photos of us, with him." The room seemed to shrink. Mark's denial swirled into anger. "Clara, what?" Clara cut him off. "I want to know if this is true. And if so, what it means for us." Her decision had set the stage for a storm that would ripple through both families. 5. The neighbors lure crickets for night scenes. Danny, sensing the tremor in the house, made his own move. The next evening, as the town was swallowed by the soft hum of crickets, he knocked on the Bentons' porch. He wore his usual charm, an inviting smile, a glass of cold lemonade in hand. "Clara," he said, "I've heard something about the photos. We should talk." Clara, still shaking, answered, "I don't want to talk. I just want the truth." Danny's eyes flicked to the garden. "You know, we all keep secrets in this town. It's what keeps it peaceful. But secrets are like roots, they grow deep and can pull you down." His voice was a velvety lure, coaxing her toward the unknown. Clara felt a strange pull. The familiar suburban quiet was now tainted by hidden currents. Danny's words were like a whisper in her ear, a promise of understanding and a threat of truth. 6. Nina's whisper. Nina Brooks' friend who hears rumors. Clara turned to Nina Brooks, her longtime friend who seemed to know every rumor. Nina was the kind of person who sat in a coffee shop, listening more than speaking, but she always knew what everyone was doing in town. "Nina," Clara said, "you know Danny? I've seen him. I found photos. He's involved with Mark." Nina's eyes widened. "Clara, you're not imagining this. I saw Danny with Mark at the park last week. He was affectionate." "Was that just a friendly hug?" Clara asked, her voice thin. Nina shook her head. "He was holding Mark's arm like as if they were more than just friends. And I saw Mark look away, guilty." Clara felt the sting of betrayal, a wound that seeped deeper. Nina's confirmation turned a vague suspicion into a visceral accusation. She understood now that the fad of suburban perfection was nothing but an illusion. 7. Hidden truths. Low rumble during emotional confessions. The next morning, Clara visited Danny's house under the pretense of borrowing sugar. She entered the back door, her heart pounding. Inside, she found a photograph of a woman she recognized instantly. "That's Marcia," Danny said softly, noticing her presence. She was Mark's late wife's best friend. She and Danny were close. They even had a family together after the war. The truth hit Clara like a wave. Danny was the son of Marcia. The affair was not just a simple betrayal, it was a complex intergenerational web of love, loss, and secrets. Mark's denial took on a new dimension. He had known about Danny's connection but decided to ignore it for fear of losing his own marriage. Danny confessed that he had grown up on the same street, looking up to the Bentons as a family. He had carried a quiet resentment, a sense of being overlooked. The affair was a way to regain a sense of belonging, but it had blurred the lines between family and deception. 8. The big reveal. Crickets for night scenes. Crescendo of drums in the climax. Clara decided to expose the affair. She arranged a family dinner at her house, inviting Mark, Danny, and Nina. The house buzzed with polite chatter, the clink of plates, the murmur of conversation. She waited until the clock struck 9, the soft wind outside brushing against the curtains. She raised her glass. "A toast," she said. "To the family, may our secrets stay hidden." Her voice trembled, but she continued, "I can't keep this secret any longer. Mark, I found photos of you and Danny. Nina, I heard you too. And Danny, your family is tied to ours. This is a betrayal that cuts deep." Mark's face drained of color. The silence that followed was heavy. Danny's eyes flicked to the wall, his composure unraveling. The climax of the story unfolded in the flicker of candlelight and the low rumble of the night. The crescendo of drums echoing in the narrator's voice as if to underline the final blow of truth. The neighbor's whisper turned into a confession, a truth that shattered the suburban fad. 9. Aftermath. Soft wind through trees at the opening. Crescendo of drums in the climax. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Mark fled the house, the sound of the door slamming echoing like a gunshot. Nina sat on the couch, tears streaming down her face. Danny retreated into his garage, the only place that felt safe. Clara stood in the kitchen, her world crumbling. The neighbor's whisper that once seemed like a breeze had become a storm. She found herself questioning whether the suburban perfection she had adored was just a stage, a mask for secrets. The neighbor's house was now a place of pain, not a sanctuary. The local grocery store seemed less like a convenience store and more like a witness to a family's unraveling. The park's laughter felt hollow, the crickets seemed to mourn. 10. New beginnings. Soft wind through trees at the opening. In the weeks that followed, Clara decided to take a step forward. She packed her things and moved to a small cabin on the outskirts of town, where the only neighbor was the wind. She began a new book, and the quiet that had once been her refuge became a new beginning. Mark, after a period of reflection, reached out to her. The two of them met on a neutral ground, where they worked through their pain and came to a fragile understanding. Danny, too, had to confront his past and the weight of his own secrets. The town eventually healed. The neighbor's whisper, once a harbinger of betrayal, became a lesson about the fragile nature of trust. The suburb returned to its quietness, but with a newfound depth, a world where secrets were no longer hidden but confronted.